Vanek here with another Deserts of Kharak replay cast, this time a 1v1 featuring two of the best players in the game, A-Game versus Greppy, now Killer Polo. And starting on the south side on Torin Crater in the yellow coalition is Killer Polo.
All ships. Multiple artifact signals have been
and
detected
his opponent on the north side of Torin Crater in the gray and black Galcian carrier is A-Game. Let's put on the production. And now this is a new patch, so there has been a bunch of balance changes since the last time I casted, and unfortunately right now I only can see Killer Polo's researching, so that'll be a little bit of an annoyance, but we'll get through. Killer Polo is going for a macro opening into this support cruiser. Let's check over on Greppy's side. It looks like Greppy's Killer Polo A-Game side, and A-Game is going for a macro opening as well. Yeah, can't tell for sure because we can't see what's coming out of the Galcian carrier, but they're at least going for a CU heavy opening. Now this could be interesting. We did have A-Game retire their base runner.
We're cleared to move.
It looks like after placing out the scanner, they were bringing up the production cruiser, perhaps to do some harassment, but it was scouted out by Killer Polo's base runner. So the production cruiser is going to go right back and is going to... Oh, you have a graphical glitch in the replay. This wreckage bulkhead's opening is a mining from it.
Waiting for eyes on to authenticate.
Research completed.
Anyway, hopefully there aren't too many other visual glitches in the replay.
Runner.
But interesting to see what Killer Polo is going to do with this base runner. It's coming all the way over here. Probably going to place down some turrets to be annoying. First sand skimmer out for A-Game. Nothing in the army out for Killer Polo just yet, but Killer Polo is researching AAVs. We're going to put down the turret, yes, the turret just outside of range
Rally point set. Move to location.
Coordinates confirmed.
for anything over here, but this is in the firing range of this resourcing location, so A-Game's probably going to need to move up this carrier to deal with it or get a bunch of sand skimmers. It looks like he's going to choose to move the carrier. This turret may be extremely small, but it packs an insane punch. 30 damage per second. When your sand skimmers only have, 15 armor.
Go for carrier.
Anyway, sand skimmers coming out from A-Game, going to do some harassing in the middle. Meanwhile, Killer Polo is going to pick up the artifact and bring it over. The carrier is coming over to deal with the turret post, and the turret probably going to do a decent amount of damage to this command carrier. We do have some AAVs coming out from Killer Polo, and they are going to come over and defend against the sand skimmers, but the sand skimmers have found their target. They've found this base runner, and this base runner is going to die. Not enough time for the armored assaults to get there. Killer Polo realizing this and is deciding to delay with the base runner any of the damage that could come from the sand skimmers.
Armor is en route.
A-Game back, resourcing again with all 4 units from the wreckage bulkhead, and this time you can actually see the resourcing location, so that's nice.
Support craft lost. Copy. Displacing.
Base runner is out, and a bunch of AAVs are going to come streaming across the map, but A-Game building some assault ships of their own. Unfortunately, not enough to deal with all of these AAVs. But these sand skimmers might be able to sneak around and do some damage in the back line. There are 2 AAVs down here at the bottom, so I don't think these sand skimmers are going to be able to do anything. Might be able to dance around and maybe get a little bit over here. Another base runner built for Killer Polo. And these AAVs are marching across the map, and
All systems
A-Game
go.
currently
Clear
doesn't
out.
have
Prep for
anything
mobilization.
in their base that can deal with it.
We've
2
detected something.
assault ships,
Can you
but they are
confirm visual?
not in anywhere near to deal with this push from Killer Polo.
On our way.
Here it comes. A-Game is just going to retreat.
Move order confirmed.
Does have a second production cruiser coming out though, so that's good.
On
But
our way.
this push could do some damage for Killer Polo. The skimmers have been pushed out by the armored assault, so all the action is happening up on this side of the map. 6 salvagers that are currently pushed off the resourcing locations just by 4 armored assaults, so that's pretty good work. However, once
Support cruiser now
A-Game
operational.
gets 4 assault ships, they should be able to take out these armored assaults, assuming
Strike craft.
there isn't
Destroy.
smoke
Be
being
advised.
used.
Team en route to recover the artifact.
Maybe even with 3. There goes the smoke to cover the retreat.
Visual confirmation.
Over down here on this side, there are an attempt by A-Game to engage with some skimmers, but that was immediately
Research
pushed back
completed.
from the armored assaults.
Modifications carried
On
out.
this side,
Confirmed. Coordinates
the assault ships have finally gotten through the smoke. They do have a slight advantage in terms of elevation, but they're out of range, so these armored assaults may get out just fine, but it is 4v4, and these assault ships should be able
Stand by.
to take care of the armored assaults.
Armor copies. Secure
Although
data
I think so. I'm not sure about the armor, because they do both have upgrades.
Fleet logistics module out.
Systems online.
The AAV damage
Armor
is significantly less, but the armor is much higher. I think the assault ships are in
Salvager
this
online.
case.
Identified
Another
allied
attempt
attack vehicle. Visually authenticated.
by Killer
Alert.
Polo
Support
to bring
taking
in
hostile fire.
a artifact,
On our way.
1 skimmer,
Underway. Receiving.
and some LAVs. These 2 LAVs will beat the skimmer, so that skimmer is going to pull away. But we do have some assault ships coming in from the north from A-Game, along with Killer Polo's AAVs coming in from the south. 2 assault ships probably won't be able to handle this.
Railgun operational.
These assault ships up here should be able to take care of the armored assaults over there. We do have a bunch of action going on. Skimmers over here being engaged by AAVs, and those are going to have to fall back lest they get killed. Meanwhile, that will allow these 2 assault ships to deal with these AAVs
Hostile production cruiser verified.
over here, but they're going to retreat.
Stand by. Artifact recovered. Authentication confirmed.
Some interceptors coming out. They're going to
Go for armor.
put some missiles into these AAVs, but they're going to take quite a while to be killed with all that armor. Multiple passes might be able to kill some salvagers. These AAVs over here are going to die,
Armored vehicle lost.
except that A-Game is going to pull back to deal with these 3 armored assault vehicles in the base. The carrier is shooting out missiles, the interceptors are shooting out missiles, the skimmers are trying to shoot them, but they just have 1 target on their mind, these salvagers, so they will eventually get killed, but not before doing some economic damage and disruption.
Alert. Support trap has been engaged.
Meanwhile,
Armored vehicle has been destroyed.
base runner moving straight into a pair of assault ships. Those will get cleaned up pretty quickly. Nothing happening over on this side of the map except for a lot of rails coming out for
Green line confirmed.
Killer Polo.
Go ahead.
Rails will die pretty quickly to the air, so
Enemy light attack vehicle marked on approach. Coordinates
Killer
confirmed.
Polo is going to need
Destination strong
a
battery
missile
across
battery, and we do
support
have 2
trap
missile
down.
batteries in production right now, so that air is going to be
Hostile
neutralized
sensors.
very shortly.
Identification pending.
That
Armored
leaves
vehicle is
A-Game
taking
a little
fire.
bit behind
We're moving out.
the ball here. Well, A-Game has cleared up most of Killer Polo's armored assault, so maybe with their armored assaults, actually their skimmers, they'll be able to take care of these rails and use the armored assaults for
Get
tanking.
us underway.
Pretty hard for rails to hit skimmers, but right now they're going to pull behind the safety of the carrier
Ready.
Missile battery online.
or move as far away as possible. Here come the missile batteries, 4 missile batteries. Missile batteries also have this really nice mortar ability, which might be able to keep the skimmers off of the rails. The rails are going to come over here in perfect defense to deal with the assault ships, but the missile ships are a little bit out of position, and as I say that, the interceptors do go a little bit too close to the missile ships, and the 2 interceptors down so far.
Research completed.
And these railguns are going to keep the assault ships away
On our way.
very easily.
Coordinates confirmed.
Whole bunch of skimmers over here backing up from A-Game. A-Game's now on 3 resourcing locations, along with Killer Polo.
Artifact position
Now these rails are just going back and forth, trying to keep the assault ships at bay. This assault ship has a elevation bonus? Okay, no it doesn't.
Online.
Fire charge.
Mortars coming out from the missile ships. Those are going to do a lot more than I would have expected damage onto the assault ships. Another mortar misses.
Armor vehicle taking effective
Smoke over here,
Module out.
keeping the
Hostile light attack vehicle
salvagers
visually on
safe while the railguns are coming over. But that means over on this side, the skimmers are able to get into the base and should be able to do some economic damage or go for the railguns. That mortar mostly misses, so these railguns will probably be taken down.
Coordinates confirmed. Armor is en route. Target locked.
More missile batteries
Fire.
on the way.
Clear out. Hit it.
Armored assault online.
Load fire.
Some nice micro going between our players. We'll lose at least 1 railgun, but the AAVs will be over here on this side, and those are going to force the salvagers, sand skimmers, excuse me, to retreat past the salvagers. Lots of harassing from A-Game, but it doesn't look like A-Game really has any way to deal with this army of Killer Polo right
Green
here.
line confirmed.
Because once these rails
Research completed.
Set.
get into firing range, these assault ships won't last very long. These assault ships are not making the right move, moving right into range by all these railguns, so they're going to retreat. And more positioning with the sand skimmers. A-Game does have a couple of heavy railguns in the back, but that's not enough to deal with the superior coalition railgun force. But these rails may have overextended just a little bit, so we will have the sand skimmers come over here and try to engage them.
Push through.
So we will have
Taking effective fire.
a little bit of a battle with the sand skimmers, and in come the interceptors as well, but good smoke by Killer Polo, keeping all of those railguns safe.
Hostile light attack vehicle detected.
And that allows Killer Polo to pick up a few armored assaults over here on the left side. Sand skimmers did get all the way back and are trying to disrupt the resourcing of Killer Polos, but too much over here, so they're going to have to fall away. Interceptors come in to try and do some poking, but they immediately run into a pair of missile batteries, 3 missile batteries, so those interceptors are going to go down immediately. And that's it for the
We
interceptors.
require additional fleet capacity modules from the command carrier.
Enemy armor on approach. New heading set. Get us underway. Set new heading.
A-Game is able to keep the pressure up over here on this side, going to go for this resourcing location. Good smoke by Killer Polo. That's going to mitigate the damage that Killer Polo A-Game can do on Killer Polo's force.
Salvager has been engaged.
Deploying field logistics module.
On this side, more dancing between the railguns and the sand skimmers, along with the missile ships. And A-Game has gotten a serious force of heavy railguns over here in the back, so might be able to do something
Get her moving.
on this flank with these sand skimmers and railguns. We'll just have to see.
Currently active.
Hostile rail
Carrier coming up into the middle.
Coordinates we got a
Smoke
railgun
there to
under
protect the
fire.
railguns. The sand skimmers are coming in.
Carrier taking fire. New heading set. Punch it.
Railguns over here doing some damage. Bunch of skimmers done by 2 well-placed mortars. Skimmers needing to pull back from the armored assaults.
Hostile armor eliminated.
Thing, a little bit of
Mark bearing.
a harass going on the left-hand side.
On our way. Move order confirmed.
But right here,
Enemy light attack vehicle
in come
marked on approach.
the sand skimmers.
Fleet capacity
A bunch of
deployed
missile
on
batteries there, so maybe don't want to come in. These railguns are trying to get a bead over here, but are unable to see
Aerial spray
their
craft
targets.
now available for production.
Alright, in comes the sand skimmers in.
Sensors post is under fire.
Mortar misses, but it was a well-placed one anyway.
All out. Coordinates confirmed.
Strike fighter ready for service.
I think I accidentally turned the health bars off by hitting a key, and I don't know how to undo that. I apologize.
Confirmed. Green line
More smoke coming out.
Strike fighter online.
fire. Escort for me. Enemy railgun firing on friendly. Move!
We do have all of this battle over here between the rails, skimmers, AAVs, and mortars from the missile batteries. These railguns are going to be able to focus down some of the rails of Killer Polo, but Killer Polo now has their own air force, and that's going to be able to do some nice damage to these heavy railguns. So they're forced to retreat. No air, anti-air from A-Game. A-Game brings in his own interceptors, which will deal with the strike fighters if the missile batteries weren't there as well. So now, Killer Polo is going to push out with this nice fleet of rails, a couple strike fighters, and plenty of missile batteries, and then just enough armored assaults. Was it just the one now? Most of those have been destroyed. So maybe an opportunity to bring these sand skimmers over here and deal some damage to the economy, which would hopefully buy A-Game some time, but these rails are getting pounded by the air.
Enemy production cruisers appeared in the AO. Enemy railgun eliminated. New heading set.
Yep, that's all she wrote for those railguns.
Light attack vehicle in service.
Armor vehicle taking effective fire.
Huge fleet of
Field logistics module.
LAVs from Killer Polo. The sand skimmers are going to be harassed by the strike fighters.
Light attack vehicle online. Coordinates dialed in.
LAVs being brought back to deal with them. Killer Polo from Killer Polo. A-Game going into more sand skimmers, retreating from his fourth resourcing location as the very scary command carrier from Killer Polo comes moving in. Still has 4 power that they can put into enemy systems. The Galaxian carrier has nowhere near as much power, putting everything into range. Over here, the skimmers are still being harassed by the air.
Construction resources exhausted.
And those skimmers are all but dead. At least a good, decent chunk of them will be once these light attack vehicles get in.
Get us moving.
Killer Polo decides it is time to retreat with the carrier moving into missile ships, trying to get some good mortar shots here. Those are going to just miss. And now the Galaxian carrier comes backed up by a bunch of heavy railguns. At least, by a bunch I mean 5. With plenty of skimmers. And a siege cruiser.
Siege cruiser verified in the AO. Get us underway. Respond.
One siege cruiser would cause a little bit of problems, but 2 is where the danger really would get at. Airstrikes coming out for Killer Polo, trying to drive these skimmers away, but that missile battery is already destroyed, and the Galaxian carrier is going to move up. This LAV ball from Killer Polo is going to move over to the north side of the crater through the center channel. And what do we have? Just the 1 production cruiser and 1 siege cruiser. I would assume that A-Game has another siege cruiser coming out to support. But we'll just have to wait and see. Both players now having a large amounts of small vehicles, and then looks like Killer Polo is going to be able to use them to much better effect than A-Game's been as far as dealing with this resourcing. Pushed off from the resourcing once again. We have some more strike fighters flying out in the air from Killer Polo. Can't tell how many strike fighters or interceptors the Galaxians have right now, but they're not in the air. These LAVs are going to be driven back by the sand skimmers. The sand skimmers are going to take some air shots And then we do have some missile ships from the Galcian player, so that will help clear the air out
Artillery cruiser operational.
of the
Research completed.
skies.
Armor moving out.
And then an artillery cruiser for
Systems up.
Killer Polo. So it's going to be an artillery battle duel between the two, along with a bunch of air. There's not enough missile ships just yet.
Hostile light attack vehicle visually authenticated.
Just out of range.
Taking fire. New sector designated. Move out.
There's a cruise missile
Fighter destroyed. It's moving. Get us underway.
from Killer Polo. That just did a bunch of damage.
Order confirmed. Target location set. Missiles away. Saturate
Almost
the
killed the
area.
production cruiser. Killed a bunch of salvagers. I think it killed the artillery cruiser. At least I don't see. Nope, the siege cruiser is right over there. Unless that's a new one. It was damaged, so it looks like it was an old one as well.
Hostile on sensors. Confirm visual. On our way. Moving. Eyes open out there.
Take a bird's eye view at the match.
Moving under fire.
For a moment, the artillery,
What?
just
Position mark.
two artillery cruisers versus just the one siege
Armor
cruiser.
assault online.
Nothing in production for either players right now.
On our way. We've got a
That doesn't
salvager
tell
under fire.
what.
Armor vehicle taking
Was
effective
destroyed.
fire. Covering smoke. Move.
Some more harassment over here from A-Game, but there are some armored assaults over here, so they'll push them back. More armored assaults, so those sand skimmers are going to want to retreat. That is a lot of armored assaults in the area with a lot of health, so backed up by some LAVs.
Artillery cruiser under attack. Units respond.
Artillery cruiser under attack from the interceptors, but still plenty of missile ships in the area, so those interceptors are going to fall.
Attack vector dialed in. Strike craft destroyed. Enemy light attack vehicle
Good
marked on
handful
approach.
of
Move order
heavy
confirmed.
rail guns
Green line confirmed.
for A-Game.
Coordinates confirmed. Board is green.
A-Game did destroy a bunch
Base runner
of
assembled.
Killer Polo's rails, though.
Location marked.
Research completed.
We'll need to deal with these siege cruiser artillery. 3 artillery cruisers now versus just the one siege cruiser
Coordinates
for
confirmed.
A-Game.
Artillery cruiser operational.
These artillery cruisers, if handled correctly, could win the game for Killer Polo, not to mention the cruise missile ability,
Displacing now. Moving out.
which is extremely powerful and does have the ability to use another one. And then the carrier is coming out. In comes the artillery, trying to kill the sand skimmers. In comes the air. Looks like the battle was going to be from this range, this way. In comes a cruise missile. That's going to do a bunch of damage, except that it mostly misses.
Get us moving. Alert. LAV down.
Some armored assaults over here in the back trying to take out the resourcing of A-Game.
Seal hatches.
And then these sand skimmers are going to come over here and try and take out the rails, maybe the artillery cruisers too. The artillery cruisers are firing into the fog of war and are currently not hitting anything.
Strike fighter coordinates.
Hostile light attack vehicle detected. Vector dialed in.
These armored assaults are doing a good job pushing off the resourcing.
Enemy production cruisers appeared in the AO.
Just the one interceptor is not going to be able to take them down. Over on this side, we do have a bunch of sand skimmers which are taking out the railguns, and they're going to just miss getting hit by a bunch of mortars, and then they do take out another base runner, and probably will take out this artillery cruiser, so very well done with those sand skimmers. Unfortunately, for A-Game, all of these AAVs are doing a ton of damage in the back. The two resourcing locations have been pulled for A-Game, and they're now attacking the third.
Alert. Carrier is taking fire.
Be advised.
That are 3 siege cruisers now for A-Game
Underway.
versus 2 artillery cruisers for
Push through.
Killer Polo.
Visual unconfirmed. Green line confirmed.
The tying artifact right here, if it does go into overtime,
On our way.
looks like it might make it to the extraction
On our
zone.
way.
These sand skimmers are getting in the back line over here, going to take out a few more rail guns again, except for these great mortar shots by Killer Polo,
Armored vehicle has been
destroying half of the force in just one shot, forcing the rest to retreat.
To complete our objective.
Go for artillery. Push her through. Cleared the launch. Target set.
Do have the carrier
Enemy armor
using
on
another missile, shooting straight at the siege cruiser. That siege cruiser is going to disappear in a giant explosion.
We're clear to proceed.
That is one very dangerous carrier right now. A-Game does not have his carrier up to using the missile barrage just yet. It doesn't look like,
Displacing now. Enemy production
but does have
excited.
plenty of
Engage
heavy
and
rail
destroy.
guns.
Get us underway.
So this is going to be an interesting fight. Let's try and get the camera angle so we can see it all. Artillery cruisers versus artillery. Those railguns are going to be destroyed.
Alert. Railgun off. Red alert.
More
Command
artillery
carrier
going
taking
back and
fire.
forth here in the desert.
Carrier hull at 75% integrity. Hostile railguns have opened up.
Hostile forces have recovered an artifact.
Personnel to stations. Destination set.
67% health on Killer Polo's carrier, a full strength carrier for the Galcian, so Killer Polo is going to bring his carrier back, but did just build
Location mark. We've detected
2 more artillery
Confirm
cruisers
visual.
right there, so it is 4 artillery cruisers versus 2 siege cruisers.
Provide fire support. Light up that target. Push her through.
Strike fighter
Hostile
approaching.
range craft destroyed.
So there's some more artillery barrages. Galcian carrier is going to come up over here with the Air Force of Killer Polo coming through the air.
Alert. Railgun down. Interceptor taking hostile fire. Support crews are under attack. Immediate fire support on that position. Copy. Move. Contact. Enemy armor. Bearing designated.
This is where all the action's going to be, right here
Alert.
in the middle.
Support crews are lost. Copy that. New sector
Try and swing around from this side, see if that gives us a better angle at the action. These rails are right in the middle of a bunch of artillery.
Hostile production cruiser verified. Take it out.
Another nuke coming out. Where's that going to hit? Right over here.
Energy signature confirmed.
That takes out
Mission discovered.
half of the carrier's health right there in one go.
Carrier is taking fire.
And then Killer Polo is going to charge right up following it. These air doing significant amount of damage.
Hostile forces are attempting to extract an artifact.
The macro game of the Coalition doing quite well in the end game.
A railgun is taking effective fire. Display.
Both the carriers are pretty low.
We've got a salvager under fire. Alert. Artillery cruiser lost. Armor is en route.
We have 2
Artillery
minutes
cruisers
left.
are
Hostiles
being
designated.
lost
Strikers
for
assigned.
Strike
A
fighter
game.
coordinates
Siege
found.
cruiser verified.
Oh,
in
3
the AO.
artillery
Strike
cruisers,
system is
though.
online. Ready to burn. Let's wipe them off the map.
Tie game in terms of artifacts.
Be advised.
It is the tie-breaking artifact right over here, but it looks like it's going to be taken out by the armored assault and strike fighters.
Missiles and relay. Strike fighter taking
More
hostile
artillery
fire.
wars going back and forth between A-Game and Killer Polo. Killer Polo is pulling the carrier back.
Be advised. Hostile forces have dropped an artifact.
Green line verified.
Yep, the artifact was destroyed,
Support craft neutralized.
so this is going to decide the game unless A-Game can sneak out another base runner and sneak that base runner over to the extraction zone.
Attack course set. New course charted.
So this is the standoff. The first carrier to die will lose.
Protocols in effect.
Some more artillery coming out from Killer Polo.
Copy. Green line verified.
Not a lot of railguns. Handful of railguns. The artillery's been quite effective against those railguns.
Carrier moving.
And then Killer Polo's deciding to move the carrier. Carrier's going to try and come and swing
Operations update.
up to the rear along with the entire rest of the fleet, and then A-Game's going to pull around this way.
We're up and running. Board is green. We're moving. Hostile light attack vehicle
Try not to swing the camera too much, but it's kind of hard to get the action
Hostile siege cruiser sighted.
right now when it's across such a wide range.
New sector designated. Move out.
In comes another nuke that's going to land right in the middle of all the forces.
Our time window has closed.
Galaxy carrier has repaired itself decently well,
Enemy production cruiser
but that doesn't kill too much.
Green line confirmed. Coordinates confirmed.
But right now, Killer Polo moving his forces all the way across the other side of the map,
Get us underway. Underway. Make ready.
moving towards the extraction zone. I'm not entirely sure what Killer Polo is deciding to do there.
Taking fire. Enemy railgun
More strike fighters coming out.
Roll out. We're clear to move. Alert. Sensor post destroyed. Hostile
But we can just see right now that looks like Killer Polo has a slight advantage in terms of units.
Provide fire support. Push through.
But here's where the final battle is going to go
Line confirmed. Move confirmed. Warning. Carrier hull is at half.
between our two carriers, the half-health Coalition carrier versus the almost full-health Galcian carrier. Has some rails and a siege. That's a production cruiser. Does A-Game have any artillery in the back? Does have some rails, but those rails are going to get hit with an artillery barrage. That support cruiser is going to die very soon. It looks like Killer Polo's cruiser might die in this final battle, but it's going to be very, very close. Looks like A-Game will come out as a victor, and he does. A very well-fought game between two of the top players in Deserts of Kharak. Hopefully you enjoyed this replay cast. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe, or leave a message in the comments. Philotanic, signing out.